Good morning, everyone. It's an honor for me to be here today to share with you the story of the South China tiger, which has been declared extinct some 15 years ago. But before I proceed to tell you how we went about doing it, I want to just give you a little bit of background on how we started doing it. Now, in 1998, I went to Zambia. I want to see a wild leopard. And of course, cats know that I love them, so they just kept themselves very elusive. I didn't see one, but I saw the conservation model in Africa. That was really my, enlightenment, I can say. And after that, I wanted to do something to help China, to actually bring this conservation model to China so that people can understand that wildlife and animals are not just something you domesticate, that you regard as a source of food or to something that you can use, but also something you can appreciate. And that's how everything started. But of course, when I started to propose to help China saving the South China tiger, I had no idea what was lying ahead. I really had no idea about the challenges. And coming from a fashion business background, and I was a total lay person. But anyway, I proposed to the Chinese government that we would like to work together, and to my complete surprise, they agreed. And that just gave me a lot of courage and also gave me a lot of, responsibilities. And I proposed to the government that let's first look for the South China tiger in the wild, even though they had been declared extinct, but let's give it a try. But the picture was not very great. So that's when I proposed that why don't we do this outside the box? China at the time was actually starting this program to save the South China tiger. They were doing nationwide surveys, and we did all the traditional things like looking for wild South China tigers. And since we didn't find any, I was able to seek the chance and say, hey, let's do this in a country where they would offer us expertise to help us jump through this loop. And that's what South Africa came in. And of course, the time first of all, to save already extinct, so-called extinct species was controversial. And to bring this very, very highly endangered leftover tigers from zoos to South Africa was another controversy. Thank you. So anyway, because I didn't really know about the politics, I just went ahead. And out of the many challenges that I faced and controversy that I created, one of the very first ones was a little, and I'll share a little anecdote. It's actually the word rewilding. Now everybody takes it for granted, rewilding. But when I started it, China actually started the first rewilding program in the world, but in Chinese it's called 野化. I battled to find a translation for this 野化. We tried rehabilitation, but it's not exactly the same meaning. I tried barbarization, and people say, "What are you? How do you say, maltreating the tigers?" So in the end, Gus Van Dyke, who was a carnival manager at the time at Pilanesberg National Park, he proposes, why don't we use rewilding? Great, we stuck to this word. And then I had some trouble to explain to people who ask, what does rewilding mean? So I always have to go through this process of telling them what it really means. It's different from barbarization, it's different from rehabilitation, and it's even different from translocation. But I just cannot imagine 10 years later, not only does everybody understand what rewilding means, it's come into conservation vocabulary, but we're actually here today talking about rewilding in Europe. We've been talking about not just land rewilding, and we're talking about a species and predator rewilding. So anyway, that's the background of the South China Tiger Rewilding Project. And I'm going to just now tell you a little bit what we did in order to bring the zoo South China tiger back to the map of prosperity again. It's still the very first step, but I'll share you exactly what we have done. Oops. Now, the tiger originated in China, and there are currently 9 subspecies left, and 6 subspecies left. There were originally 9, and 3 have gone extinct. And interestingly, the South China tiger is the most ancient tiger in the world, from which all tigers on this planet are allegedly derived or descended. Now, the South China tiger is morphologically a little bit different from the other tigers. And as you can see, this is a genetic map done by geneticists. Unfortunately, the tiger has lost about 90% of its original habitat. And current population stands about 3,200 in tiger ranger countries. And with South China tiger being the most endangered, and we did some surveys, we couldn't find any, and in captivity, when I started the project, there were about sort of 60, 70 individuals in captivity in zoos. There were about 100,000 tigers over 100 years ago in tiger-rich countries. In fact, in about 1900, there were 40,000 tigers in China. But by the time it reached 1950, there were only about 4,000 tigers left. Now, there is a distinction between the demise of South China tiger, that the reason the South China tiger was on the verge of extinction, than perhaps other species. And obviously in India, there are large-scale hunting. But in China, when in the 1950s, there was a large-scale campaign to eliminate pests, which considered danger to the livelihood of farmers in China. That's how the campaign started, and it was a very effective campaign, obviously. Once you start something in China, everything become, rapidly organized, and the South China tiger, being considered the most dangerous pest, was largely eliminated in a matter of 10, 20 years. So by the time it reached 1980, there are probably only 10 to 30 South China tigers left. And that's when the government declared South China tiger a protected species. And conservation efforts started to set up reserves to protect them. And I also want to mention that we talk a lot about climate change, but we tend to ignore actually biodiversity loss, which all of you know is actually quite a crucial problem, and in fact, even more severe than climate change nowadays, based on the Stockholm Resilience Center's research. Now, do we really need wild tigers in China? A lot of people say, well, they just, gave people headaches and they kill people, they kill domestic stock. Do we really need them? One thing that we as the Chinese well know is, for example, I'm born in the year of the tiger. That's just one element of Chinese culture. And this tiger has been in Chinese culture for at least 8,000 years. And it has been deeply ingrained in our culture, in our literature, in our arts, and everything. So if you actually lose a tiger, which is not just losing a keystone species and flagship species in its habitat, we're actually losing a cultural symbol. And of course, I remember someone quite known once said, a beautiful environment, a beautiful nature without a predator is just scenery. And the tiger is ultimate embodiment of the wild. And the fact that if we don't have tiger in China, we're probably losing the wilderness. And therefore, it's very crucial that we bring a wild predator back in China. And this, is all biodiversity loss caused by, human encroaching on the wildlife, and the loss of tigers obviously is a, symbolic of that. And due to all kinds of, human activities and climate change, we actually have taken more and more of wild animals' land. So we must do something about it. And there have been successful stories, such as the Prisvasic horses and puma, and therefore we can apply, this model to saving South China tiger as well. The South China tiger, it has been declared extinct. We don't know whether they're completely extinct, but the picture is not very pretty. So the only way we will be able to bring the tigers back is for something quite dramatic, quite drastic, is really to use zoo individuals and rewild them and let them regain the ability to hunt, and in order to bring them back to the wild again. Now, the reason that South China tiger has been taken to South Africa is because I was very impressed during my travels. South Africa actually has the facilities, has expertise, has many years experience in managing wildlife species, and they could help us in China to fast track this process. And of course, I didn't know how controversial it was, but there you go. We did it, and it's proven that it can be done. And this is how we did. Initially, the Chinese government allowed me to take 2 pairs of South China tiger cubs from zoos in Shanghai, and we brought them, by plane to South Africa. And this is the they're putting in what do we call camps, and there are different sizes of camps, which we will use depending on the age of the tigers and the ability, the efficiency to hunt. The different sizes of camps. And this is the pictures of the tigers. We're very lucky. I've been, over the past 10 years that I was there as of 2012. I spent a lot of time there, and I think out of the 10 years, I was lucky enough to only witness 7 different hunts. And they did eventually, learn to hunt like a wild tiger, and they only hunt in obscure times. So I was not able to take a lot of photo and video images, but we have some good record. This is the facilities we use in South Africa, the camps, and we have also a breeding center. And this, the game they're using to eat is comparable to the traditional game. And there's a prey capacity. We try to maintain the prey density as if they were in natural environment. And their food intake is about the same as in the wild, and actually their hunting rate is better than the wild because they're in controlled environment. So it's slightly easier for them to hunt sometimes. However, the habitat is actually more difficult hunting because there's no cover, very little cover. But the tiger eventually learned to use, whatever they could find. They adopt. And they're the first cubs ever born in natural environment, out of a tiger rewilding project, probably the first rewilding project in the world as well. And currently, there are 14 adult tigers, and all learn to hunt, and therefore, the next stage is to bring them to China. So the project's proven quite effective in resurrect their hunting abilities and in breeding them. So even though in captivity, in zoos they bred very badly, but now they've proven that in natural environment they can breed pretty well. And now we are working on, in China, trying to create habitat for them, and hopefully we'll be able to bring the first tigers back to China next year. So from the Untitled Tiger project, we learned this model can be done, and this model is being applied now in other tiger range countries. So anyway, I'll stop here, and thank you for everybody for your attention. And if you have kind of question, you can ask me later.